Your nursing career can feel like a busy airport, a marathon, a bus terminal, a rickshaw ride, or a taxi careering the wrong way down a one-way street. Who is behind the controls of your career? Let's talk about it right here on episode 182 of The Nurse Keith Show. Well, hello and welcome to the Nurse Keith Show. I am so grateful you're listening, whether it's your first time tuning in or you've been hanging out with me on the airwaves for months or years. Thank you for being part of the growing Nurse Keith Nation. And here's a shout out to dedicated listener Sue Allison Dean, otherwise known as The Nature Nurse. Check her out at thenaturenurse.com. This podcast is all about you and your nursing career, and I'm here to share education, inspiration, and ideas that'll get you moving in a positive and inspired direction. And if you want to see the show notes for this episode, you can follow along at nursekeith.com/the word episode and the number 182. And before we dig into the meat of this episode, I have a few asks of you, dear listener. Please consider becoming a patron of the Nurse Keith Show, just like other listeners who value the show and how much we're doing here for the nursing profession. When you pledge a monthly amount to support the show, you not only get the satisfaction of helping produce and support the Nurse Keith Show, you also get some pretty cool premiums and gifts from me. Just head over to patreon.com/Nurse Keith to read all about it. And that's patreon.com/Nurse Keith. Also, please consider signing up for my newsletter at nursekeith.com so you can receive my bi-weekly message. And remember to leave a rating and review of the Nurse Keith Show over on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. It really helps other people find the show. Those are my sincere asks of you. So now let's dig deep into today's topic. Back on November 12th, 2018, I republished a blog post from 2015 with some added information and inspiration for you, and it was entitled, "What's on Your Nursing Career Runway?" And when I set up this episode a few minutes ago, I talked about your career feeling like an airport, a marathon, a bus terminal, a taxi ride. You know, our lives are guided by so many different aspects of who we are, who we've been, where we've been, who we've hung out with. And we really need to consider first, who is in the cockpit of the plane of our career. If you think about that metaphor, you know how you have the pilot, the co-pilot, you even have automatic pilot. And I feel like a lot of us get into automatic pilot in our careers, or we let other people control who we are as nurses and healthcare professionals and what we're doing. What we need to do is take back the control of our career and not let other people unnecessarily influence the choices that we make professionally. Now, I don't mean to say that you can't talk with other people and get their opinions about what you're doing. But what I'm trying to say here, and what I go through in the blog post that you can check out by going to the link in the show notes at nursekeith.com/episode 182, is that your inner co-pilot of your career, and let's say your life in general, could be, like I said in the blog post, a critical mother or an overbearing father. Those voices in your head, those deeply embedded critical voices that can sometimes steer us in the wrong direction. Maybe, like I mentioned, your career is on automatic pilot and there's just not enough happening. There's not enough conscious effort to move your career forward or to grow as a professional. This happens for various reasons, of course, and we need to make sure we keep our finger on the pulse of where we are in our career so that we can move forward when and if we're ready to. Now, on your career jet, your career airliner. You might have some flight attendants walking around in your psyche. Are they busy making coffee when they should be battening down the hatches and locking the doors? Are your flight attendants distracting you from the work at hand? And if you look in that overhead bin or you look in the baggage compartment below the plane, is there so much emotional baggage in your overhead bin that your plane is too heavy to leave the ground? Or are you dragging along stuff that you no longer need to drag around? You know, if you think about it, your baggage can look like so many things. Of course, it could be, like I said, an overbearing mother or a critical father or vice versa, saying, you should have been a doctor. Why are you a nurse? You know, you could have gone on to medical school and made a whole lot more money and had so much more prestige. Or they might say something like, why did you waste your time on nursing school? You could have done something much more remunerative, much more satisfying. Or maybe your brother went into the family business and you didn't. And there's critical voices saying, how come you abandoned the family business? You should be here with your family, not off gallivanting being a nurse. And maybe there's a voice somewhere who said, you're not smart enough to be a nurse. Or maybe you're not smart enough to be a doctor, so you decided just to be a nurse. Have you heard that one? I have heard that one. Now, let me tell you one of the voices that hangs out in my psyche, in my head. Back in my senior year of high school, I had an English teacher named Mr. Dingle, believe it or not, and you can't even begin. Well, maybe you can begin to imagine the nicknames we had for Mr. Dingle. Anyway, I think it was the last week of senior year, right before graduation. We were all lackadaisical, just sitting around, not doing anything, because we didn't need to do anything at that point. And Mr. Dingle was going through the room saying what he felt some of the students in the room would accomplish. And of course, one student, he said, was going to be a senator, and another one was going to be a, massively successful lawyer or something like that. And he came to me and he said, Carlson, Carlson's going to be an insurance salesman. And that was it. And everybody laughed, and I sat there steaming with smoke coming out of my ears. I was so mad and hurt and embarrassed. And, obviously, I'm now 54 years old. That was said to me when I was 17. I still remember the feeling of Mr. Dingle saying that I was going to be an insurance salesman. Now, if any of your spouses or family members sell insurance, this is not to cast aspersions on insurance salesmen and saleswomen. They do great work. It's really important. But that is not what I had on my docket when I was 17 years old. And I know that Mr. Dingle meant it as an insult. So who are your inner Mr. Dingles? Who are the people in your life, whether they're dead or alive at this juncture, who said things or did things or wrote or intimated things that made you feel less than, that made you feel not like the person you wanted to be? There's all sorts of baggage that can obstruct what we want to do. There's all sorts of people who want to grab the controls of your life and your career and tell you what to do, whether it's a spouse or a child or an aunt and uncle or an English teacher, whoever it happens to be. Now, sometimes that baggage just needs to be thrown overboard. We just say, okay, I'm jettisoning this stuff. I'm done. I'm done with Mr. Dingle and I'm going to be a success. Doesn't matter what he thinks. And he's probably old and living in a nursing home now anyway. That's mean, but you know how it is. So we can manage this ourselves. Sometimes we need a psychotherapist or a counselor or a coach or somebody to help us work through this stuff, that's standing in our way. And when I start doing career coaching with people like you, sometimes I'll suggest counseling if I feel it's necessary to dig deep into the stuff that's standing in a client's way, that's keeping them from making the decisions they need to make. We can have mental baggage, emotional, spiritual baggage. Maybe you grew up in a very oppressive military household or a highly religious or evangelical household or just a place where people were dysfunctional, whatever it happens to be. And that dysfunction stood in the way of you realizing your potential. So whatever it is, whoever it is, whatever has been getting in your way, what is the work, the soul work that you need to do to make sure that that stuff gets moved off the runway so you can get off the ground? Here's several things I recommend. 1, you need to decide what it is you want, where you want to go, who you want to be, and what you need to accomplish. So first is deciding where you're headed. Number 2, next you need to decide what is standing in the way of getting where you want to go. Is it Mr. Dingle? Is it your mom or dad? Is it your boss? Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's your children. Whoever or whatever it happens to be, you need to decide what that is and then make a plan to overcome it, to get rid of that baggage, to move around it, beyond it, under it, through it, over it, whatever you happen to need to do to be able to accomplish that. So I was telling you about Mr. Dingle. I'm sure you can come up with something that has stuck in your craw, that has sat there in your psyche for years, for decades. And now is the time to say, okay, I am ready to untie this knot. I am ready to remove this baggage from the overhead bin, throw it out the window, and get my plane off the ground. Once you have done that, once you have moved beyond, the next step is then to take the next steps. Maybe it's going on for a PhD or DNP. Maybe it's starting a business. Whatever it happens to be, once you get the stuff out of the way, the sky's the limit. The world is your oyster. There's so much you can do. And you can talk to me. You can hit me up at keith@nursekeith.com and we can have a chat. 1, about your baggage. 2, about how you're going to get rid of it. And 3, what you're going to accomplish once you get that stuff, those obstacles, those speed bumps out of your life and ready to clear the way, to get the snowplow out on that runway, clear it all away so that you can take off. And I would love to help you do that. We're going to take a pause for the cause for our new sponsor. Yes, this episode of the Nurse Keith Show is sponsored by Rasmussen College at rasmussen.edu. That is RASMUSSEN. And we are talking about their innovative Flex Choice RN to BSN program. It is designed for working registered nurses who want to earn their BSN while balancing family, work, and school. This program is accredited by the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education, and the program can be completed in as few as 18 months, and it offers 4 start dates a year with affordable tuition. This program is available with their Flex Choice program, which allows you to blend traditional online courses with self-directed assessments that provides a more affordable way to receive credit for what you already know. Rasmussen College provides innovative student support, including 24-hour support centers, tutoring assistance, and nursing library and learning assistance. So, rasmussen.edu, that is RASMUSSEN.edu. Check them out there, check them out on social media, and tell them Nurse Keith sent you. All right, and we're back. And again, my thanks to Rasmussen College for sponsoring this episode of the Nurse Keith Show. So, we talked about, prior to the break, the baggage that you can carry along in the course of your nursing career, the stuff that stands in your way. So if your career runway is riddled with potholes and the directional lines aren't really there to guide you, and there's no one there to help you decide when it's safe to take off, you have some work to do to create the most fertile environment for professional success that you possibly can. Your inner air traffic controller might be on vacation. The terminal may be closed for renovations, but you know what? That's okay. Time is on your side. Time is your friend. So when you're getting ready for a flight, for a trip, for a vacation, for an adventure, you need a map, right? You need a map to tell you where you're going and how you're going to get there. You need reliable air traffic control data. You need to know about the turbulence that's coming up. Even though we know in life, metaphorically speaking, we don't always know when the turbulence is going to be happening, but we need to be prepared for it. We need a safe runway. We need a solid plane on which to fly where we've gotten rid of that baggage that really weighs us down. And we need a crew that can safely get us where we want to go. Flight attendants, pilots, all those people who help a flight get off the ground. And I hope you don't mind these ongoing metaphors. By now, if you listen to the Nurse Keith Show or read my blog, you know that I love metaphors. And this is a good one. I love this airplane metaphor for your nursing career. So if you do need a crew, think about it. We've talked about the people who have planted, let's say, negative thoughts in your mind, negative opinions and stuff that holds you back, like my dear Mr. Dingle, my high school English teacher in 12th grade. So who are the people who actually are on your crew? Who are the people who really support you? This is the next thing to identify. You do not need people in your life who are naysayers, though it's perfectly fine to have people in your life who will call BS. They have a BS detector that will let you know. They will let you know when you're off track. And that's fine. It's good to have friends and family members like that. However, you also need people in your life who are your cheerleaders, the people who are going to stand on the sidelines and wave their pom-poms and tell you you're doing great. You need a spouse who's going to be there for you when you have an exam or a paper to write and your spouse takes care of the kids or walks the dog or cooks dinner when you have a class that evening. So you need people in your corner. Who are those people going to be? You know, I have a mentee, a wonderful young nurse who lives on the East Coast, and I want to be, and I am, a cheerleader for her. I'm one of those people who cheer her on. And also when she's feeling negative or feeling bad about herself, I remind her of the good things, the things she's good at, her skills, her accomplishments. And I make sure she doesn't get caught in those negative thought patterns that can really lead her astray. You need someone like that as well. I can be that for you. Many people can be that for you, but you need to gather around you the team that's going to support you to get you where you want to go. So if you have your mapping system, you've got your people, you've got your supports, you've got the luggage that you need, and you've gotten rid of the baggage that's standing in your way, you've filled the potholes on the runway, you're ready to take off. And whoever it is who's there with you, they can help push you down that runway and help lift you and buoy you throughout the coming processes, throughout the coming experiences and adventures that you're going to be undertaking. So your career, your nursing career, and also your personal life can really take off when favorable conditions are met. And I know you're saying, or you're thinking to yourself, Nurse Keith, the conditions are never fully favorable. That's kind of pie in the sky. And I'll say yes. Life is never perfect. Nursing and healthcare, by God, we know it's never perfect. However, we can set ourselves up for success by creating the environment and the atmosphere, laying the groundwork to create the lives and careers that we really want. I want you, your homework from this episode is to sit back. Well, actually, lean forward. Don't sit back. Lean forward. Lean forward and start making those lists of the people you want to gather around you in order to move forward, let's say, into the next, let's arbitrarily say the next 5-year period of your career in your life. What is it you want in these next 5 years? Who can be there for you to make sure that it happens, to call you out when you need to be called out, and to hold you accountable and cheer you on at the moments when all you need is waving pom-poms and a happy cheer to let you know that they're there for you? Also, what do you need to be grounded and healthy? We've talked a little bit about wellness here on the show. What do you need in order to make sure when you're busy, when you're in your PhD program, when you're doing that RN to BSN at Rasmussen College, whatever it happens to be, how are you going to make sure that you are well fed, that you are hydrated, that you're getting exercise, that you're getting rest, that your emotional and spiritual lives are being looked after and nurtured and watered and given compost so that you can grow as a person? Speaking of growing as a person, what are you going to be doing for your own personal growth? How are you going to take your life, take what you've accomplished, and move it forward even further? So, make sure you consider what it is you need to do and who you need and what you need to get where you want to go. If you would like to speak to me, please email me at keith@nursekeith.com. We can have a chat and we can talk about what you need, the ducks you need to get in a row, the T's you need to cross and the I's you need to dot in order to make sure that you can create what you're looking for in your life. So remember to hit me up at keith@nursekeith.com, and please let me know what you're planning. Let me know what's on your plate and what kind of support you need and how you're setting yourself up for that ultimate success. Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for listening to The Nurse Keith Show. I hope you feel uplifted and empowered from this episode, and I encourage you to take inspired action every day in the interest of your professional career development. The Nurse Keith Show is edited and produced by Tim Hollowell and his team over at thepodcastinggroup.com, and social media and promotion are handled by the wonderful Mark Cappy Speeson. My eternal and consistent and ongoing thanks to Tim, his team, and also Mark for their support in making the Nurse Keith Show what it is. I want you to stay positive, care for yourself and others, take inspired action in the interest of your career, and tune in again and again as we explore how to take your life and nursing career to the next level. Be well, dig deep, seek joy, and keep in touch. And adios till next time from beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico.